Hey guys, my name is Itimi and you're welcome to another episode of Founders Connect. On Founders Connect, I have conversations with amazing entrepreneurs and operators in Africa. Now, these are guys and ladies and women who are building amazing companies, who are leading amazing companies that are impacting people in Africa. Now, in this episode, I'm speaking to Akinwunmi, the CEO of Zazuu, and he has an amazing story to tell. So make sure you stay and watch this video to the end.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Itimi, a change maker, professional, and creative who is passionate about growing people and growing businesses. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and please always share my videos. It promises to always be impactful and insightful.
Okay, so I usually like my videos to start with the person before we talk about the company. So give me your background. Like, people see you and like, okay, he's amazing, he's building this company, but who is K? Like, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What was like growing up like for you? Just your background story.
The background, right?
Yeah.
All the way back.
All the way back.
Cool. First of all, this is cool to be here, right? Like, because I'm watching your YouTube video, and next minute I'm sitting right next to you.
Yay!
You know, on YouTube with you. It's cool. So thanks
for doing this with me.
Background story. First of all, I'm a proud Agege boy.
Okay.
Honestly.
So. You have the accent, so no one can tell.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. I thought I was hiding it. Okay, cool. So I was born in Nigeria, of course, Lagos. Lived there for about 14 years. I pretty much grew up in Agege. I stayed in quite a few places in Nigeria. Agege is like my base. That's home. Right? Pretty much like family member lived there. I remember just growing up, like I'm running around. Agege, like there used to be like this cinema where I'd go like once in a while. Yeah, so Agege is the base for me.
What's your favorite memory growing up?
Do you know what? Quite a lot, but one that I can remember now is my mom is a fashion designer. She's been a tailor. Fashion designer is like a fancy word for it, right?
At that time, it was tailor. Yeah.
And she used to sew clothes, and I'd go to school, and when I'd come back from primary school, she'd send me to the other streets to go and buy tailoring material. And I always loved that moment where I'm running, I would she'd be like, hey, why don't you go and buy this for me? And I actually loved it. I loved doing that. I loved going from home and running to that place and coming back as quickly as possible. That's an exciting memory for me when I look back to my childhood, especially in Agege, just this little boy running around. I loved it. And obviously that's interesting, right? Because now running is a big part of my life.
Yeah, how often do you run?
Pretty much every day.
How many kilometers?
I'm not going to say I'm a pro runner, but I'm kind of in between an amateur and a pro runner. I'm a long distance runner, half a marathon, full marathon, ultra marathon.
Very fit.
Short runner, all kind of runs.
I did karate practice last week Tuesday and haven't been able to walk properly. So running every day, I can aspire to that. Okay, cool. So at what point did you move to the UK and why did you move to the UK?
So I moved to the UK in 2004. To be honest, I actually didn't want to move to the UK. So my mom, I grew up with my mom. She traveled to the UK in 2002. And then I was sent to the boarding house somewhere in Ogun State. And that 2 year, between 2002 and 2004, it's I was 12 years old. That was the time where I had freedom, true freedom as a person. I was in boarding house. I could do whatever I wanted to do, talk to girls, all of that stuff, right? So I was really enjoying my life. I didn't want to move to the UK. But I knew at some point it would happen. In 2004 it happened. And so I moved to the UK in 2004.
Okay, so what was school like here? I assume because you moved at 14?
Yes.
At 14. Okay, so you finished high school here and then you went to uni. What did you study at uni? What was that like?
Yeah, so when I got to the UK, I remember my mom asking me. Well, actually, we had this dilemma. I had just turned 15.
Okay.
Right. I moved to UK in May 2004. My birthday is April. I just turned 15, and this dilemma was that I couldn't go into secondary school because basically, like, I'd only have like, I had less than a year to finish and go to college. So I had to stay home for a while. And my mom asked me, okay, what do you want to do? Or what do you want to study? And for me, it was just computing, right? I'd always had a dream of like being a computer engineer from a very young age. So like, it was quite straightforward. I went to college, started college in South London.
So you studied computer science?
Yeah, no, not computer science. This is college. So like straight into like BTech intro, like elementary level. And a year into that, I then do like BTech National Diploma, which is like software development. And that was when my life changed.
How?
We can let's
go into it right now. How did your life change?
So, I mean, I've been like a computer, like, what's the word? Like a computer geek from Nigeria, right? But my idea, my world of computing was like hardware. I'd always think like, oh, you know, like when I grow up, I'm gonna like take computers apart, upgrade the RAM and all of that stuff. And then second year in college in the UK, this teacher introduced us to like programming. And I'm like, oh my God, you're telling me like I could build something like MSN, because MSN was a thing back then, right? It was just like, it was unbelievable. It was like literally like, it was freedom and power. And that changed like literally my life. Like I remember we did this course. Well, actually he introduced us to programming. And from that night, every single day, probably to like a few years ago, I was always coding. Like I failed everything else and I became like, the geek at coding.
Okay, so at what point did you move from just being a programmer to being an entrepreneur?
I think that's a good question. I'd say like around 2012, right? So 2000. I mean, I've always been programming, you know, from like I'd say 2006. But in 2012, I took it a lot more serious, and I actually started my journey or my career, should I say, as a freelance web designer.
Right.
I was doing that in the UK. For me, like I wanted to. You know, in London, like when you look at small businesses or black businesses in a community, they just didn't have any online presence. And if you go on a website, the website is just horrible. So I wanted to do something like that. And so, yeah, like I was just focusing on like helping smaller businesses in the UK to build a website. And then, you know, that was kind of going well for like a year. And I thought, oh, well, how about I turn into a proper thing? So in 2013, I decided to start a digital marketing agency. And that was exciting. I had like a team of 4. And I made a big mistake. Everything was well from 2012. I had like these smaller businesses paying. And then I thought, well, you know, I want to do it proper, right? I want to attract a big client. So I decided to take an office in central London, in Warwick Street. Bloody hell, yeah, that was a horrible. That was a horrible thing to do. And basically, what happened? I took this office. Of course, all my pricing went up, and all the clients that I had couldn't afford me. Yeah. And I basically just went back to ground zero. So that was crazy. But yeah, I'd say like 2012 was when like the career in like web design and programming really kicked off.
So how many businesses would you say you have tried to build or you built before Zazuu?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Tell me like the key milestones for in between these 5.
Yeah. So I'd say like, so the digital marketing agency was I guess a step into like entrepreneurship. Ran there for like 2 years. And the experience from there was I got to work with a lot of like people with great ideas or entrepreneurs who wanted to kick off something but just didn't have the technical skills to code it or build it out. So I worked with quite a lot of those people, and I got into like the UK Silicon Valley community, and I'm just seeing all these cool young people like coming up with ideas and building things, and I'm like, hold on, I could do this as well. So within that phase, and I kind of just journey into with a few people, I tried to run a platform called Palatable, which is basically African food delivery platform. I did that for a year. I actually got kicked out of that. One of the co-founders kicked me.
Oh, Okay, that sounds like an interesting story.
It is very interesting. And Corridor actually was part of that venture. Corridor is my
co-founder, not Zazuu.
He was part of that venture as well. We both got kicked out. And after that, I'm like, oh shit, well, there's plenty of ideas, right? Let's come up with something new. And we came up with like Hairdo, which is a platform for like helping people to book hairstylists and barbers and stuff. And I was okay. I think we ran that for like 6 months. We tried to raise money, but we didn't get any traction. And then in between there, I came up with like Afro Express. And Afro Express was enabling like migrants to be able to get how to find ingredients. And it was such a really cool thing, getting some traction, going to like Just Eat Accelerator program. And that was really cool. I ran it for 18 months. But then the challenge of like raising money came in again, because it was, at the time, this was like 2016. It was seen as a niche business for like niche communities. And I guess maybe I just didn't know how to raise money then. So I ran it for 18 months. It was extremely capital intensive. It was such a hard business to run. Like every time I see like entrepreneurs running grocery platform with logistics, I just feel sorry for them. I'm not jealous of it, because I know like it's such a hard grind. Anyway, so that failed, but actually became a pivot for Zazuu.
Okay, but so before we go into Zazuu, so you did the digital marketing agency, you did the Palatable, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
You got kicked out, you tried Hairdo, couldn't raise money, then you tried what was it, Afrocentric? Afro Express, and you couldn't still raise money. What did you learn in between these 4 businesses? Like getting kicked out and then having like really good viable idea, but we just couldn't raise money. What would you say you've picked out? Like maybe the 2 most important lessons you've picked out in those experiences that you're kind of using now in this 5th business?
One thing is team. Like all of those ventures, I think Palatable, there was team in it, and we made some good progress, but most of those ventures, it was like it was led by me alone, right? And so one thing I learned was, if you want to build a scalable business, a global business, you can't do it alone. You need a team. And then so when Palatable failed, and of course Afro Express failed, it really exposed me into like how to build startups, right? How to build companies. And I saw like most people that are raising or doing really well, they had co-founders. So I knew that before I actually do anything with Zazuu, I needed to build a strong team. So team definitely was a big one for me. To excel at the next one. But the other thing is like a business that could serve like millions of people had like basically from sale to like distribution, like seconds.
Right. So something that's more scalable.
It's more scalable. It works across different jurisdictions. It's almost instant, and not just focus on Africans alone, like a lot, it's something that could scale. Because the other things were like very African focused. And I realized that actually that's kind of like you're cornering yourself into a very small niche market. You want to build something that could definitely work for Africans, but then scale beyond that as well. So I think those are two elements that got into Zazuu.
Okay, so team and scalability analysis, the breadth of what the company can be like. So now for those of us that don't know, what is Zazuu?
What is Zazuu? In a nutshell, Zazuu is a marketplace for sending money across border.
Okay, in not a nutshell, especially like when you say a platform that not just serves Africans, but can serve people that don't Africans. So can you maybe bring that context into explaining what Zazuu is?
For sure. So what we're trying to do with Zazuu is like, it's really expensive to send money across border, not just to Africa, but globally. So right now it's an average of 7% to move money anywhere in the world. And of course, that's a lot. That's really expensive. So for us, we are building a platform that, for the first time, actually empower the customers to have visibility before they move money, right? So like, most money transfer businesses tell you like, free transfer, zero transfer, whatnot. But of course, that's a lie, because it's still customers 7%. in Africa's case, up to 22% to move money. So the solution to that is not to build another money transfer business, but actually build an ecosystem that brings all these companies into one place. So customers for the first time can see like who's lying, basically, right? But at the same time, enable like a seamless interaction between those customers and the money transfer businesses as well. And that's Zazuu in a nutshell. So if you're sending £100 from the UK to Nigeria, we would show you all of your options, all the money transfer companies in one place, including like local agents or whoever can fit in. The key thing is they all have to be regulated in their local jurisdiction, and of course a legit business. So we show you as a customer the rates, the fees, and then we enable you to tap a button and move money through any one of those.
That sounds amazing, but that also sounds hard. Because like you rightly said, right, there's a lot of money transfer businesses, right? The solution is not to build another one. Yeah. Okay, but since there are a lot of them, there are also a lot of choices. How would Zazuu win now? Because you're not competing with even the people that you want to work with.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for us, like, when actually not competing, from our perspective, instead of competing, we see like a need for collaboration. That's the only way like everyone's going to win in this industry. The money transfer market in itself is so fragmented anyway. Customers are shopping around. Like most people that we spoke to have 3 to 5 money transfer apps on their phone. So that's the reality, right? What Zazuu is doing is actually helping these money transfer businesses to get to their customers, right? If you're offering a really competitive deal, as you said, right? And what we're doing for customers is, right now, like they have to go to multiple places, right? Google, they have all these apps on the phone, they're checking rates here and there, they're calling that local agent, you know. And we just say, hey, like we can simplify that process into like seconds. So it's a massive time savings for the customer, but also value cost savings as well. And for the businesses, it's just, we're helping them to make sure that the customers continue to find them. And the most important thing for them is to make money, right? So we're able to connect these businesses and customers in a way that's not currently possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you said that before you started Zazuu, 2 things that you learned was about building a team and just the kind of business that you build. Now that you've done Zazuu for like 18 months-ish, what have you learned? Like, I came into this with 5 businesses worth of experience, but this is something that I did not know until I started Zazuu.
All right, like a complete shocker. I think like the biggest challenge for us so far has been the compliance, if I'm being, totally honest. Like we've built a team of like amazing product people, amazing engineers. We have this time like snipers, right? Like a team of snipers who understand product, marketing, growth, and engineering. Like the struggle, and then in this case, we're building a financial service business, which means it's arguably the most regulated industry in the world. So heavily regulated, and like I would say like 6 months ago, it was we're kind of weak in that area, where we didn't have like a compliance person in-house to kind of help us move faster, but also help us make sense of a lot of things. So that was a weakness for us about 6 months ago. But I think, we realized very quickly that we needed to double down on that side of things, and we're fixing that. But it's a big shocker because we thought, we're just the middleman, right? We're the middleman. We don't need to be heavily regulated. But no, because our relationship with the customer means that we're holding the money for some time. It means that we need to safeguard that money, and there's a lot of regulatory stuff that goes into that. So that's a big one. Okay, and what would you say are the maybe 2 or 3 biggest wins or milestones? For us, I'll go back to the team. I'm very proud of the team we have. We have a team of like people who I'd say like they're the best talent Africa has to produce. But they're not just skillfully like good. They truly believe in a mission in terms of what we're trying to do. And like for me, that's a great combo. So I'm proud of that. I'm also proud of actually the business model that we're bringing to the world, combined with the product. First of all, the product is the first in the world. You don't have
first in the world.
It's the first, I would say, in the universe, right? There is no platform that gives you access to all of your choices in one place and enable you to tap a button and move money through them.
In the same
what we have today is like phase one, right? Like search engines, comparison engines. There are quite a lot of those, and the experience is ugly. But more importantly, not efficient for Africans or our core demographic. So I'm proud of like the products we built as well. What's the third one? I don't know. I think we're making good progress. We raised a little bit of money for pre-seed. Compared to like I'd say the rest of the industry, we've been like extremely frugal with like what we raised, and also having the best talent at the same time and executing at the same time. I think we've been quite frugal, so I'm happy with that progress.
So what was it like raising for Zazuu? Because you tried raising for Hairdo and Afro Express and it didn't work. So,
yeah.
And then you raised a pre-seed for Zazuu. How was that like?
So in a nutshell, like the pre-seed was hard. I'm not even it was hard. Like imagine going to people and trying to convince them of a future that doesn't exist, of a world, a business model that just doesn't make sense. And a lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people think like it's not going to work. But a few people did, and it took us a while to get through to those few people. But because we had a solid team, it made it a bit easier as well. So I think what I didn't have before was like that solid team. But this time around, like amazing team, that team that I could die for, right? So and then that comes across when you're speaking to people, because the pre-seed is basically people are investing in team.
Yeah.
Not the idea. They know the idea is going to change. So the fact that we have a great team this time around, like I was constantly pushing on like the value that we have as a team, and that was. Yeah, in a nutshell, like it took us about 9 months to raise pre-seed, which is it's a long time. But then that's also great for us because through that fundraising process, like we learned like innovative ways of raising money, right? Which I've tried to like kind of share to a lot more founders, especially early stage founders, need to adopt that approach of raising. So,
do you want to share a bit about it?
I think it's just like maybe one word, like tranche fundraising, and then definitely use SAFE. What that means is if you're raising like $500,000, don't go to investors on day one and say, hey, I want to raise $500,000. Like, tell them that, hey, the plan is to raise $500,000, but the first tranche is 100K. And on this 100K, you're getting the best valuation possible. Right? Investors love the best valuation, mean that $10,000 or $5,000 could give them a lot more equity in the business. So that creates a FOMO, and most people, very quickly, people come in to take the 100K. And then once you get the 100K, you now go to a different set of investors and say, hey, we're raising 500K, we've closed 20% of that. And we've got the next 200K at a slightly better valuation, right? And again, people jump into that. Now, it's easier to raise that 200K because you've already raised 100K. And so you just do the same thing for like all the rounds. And that way, like, it's a lot more easier. But more importantly, you can start to use that 100K that you raised initially to run the business, right? Because what most people do is they do like an equity round and they're waiting to raise the 500K. Yes, you can get commitments, but you can't use the money until you close the round. So you spend about 9 months trying to raise 500K and your business is not progressing. Right. So I'd always say tranche fundraising using SAFE.
Makes sense. So you talk about your team a lot at Zazuu. How are you building what are you using in picking these amazing snipers, as you call them? And then how are you building a culture that makes it an enabling environment for them?
It's a great question. How are you finding them?
And even convincing them.
I think the founders, including myself, we know we're building one of the best companies that Africa or the world would ever see. We know that. right? So that conviction is there, and we know the purpose and the mission and the vision behind it is grand. Like we know that. That's like our base, right? So then it's kind of easier when you're speaking to other people, because you just have to be yourself and just basically lay the plan for them. Here's what we're trying to do. And because the plan is like, it's quite tough, most talent and most snipers love challenging stuff. They love tough problems. And that way they're like, okay, cool. But more importantly, what we learned in the last 10, 15 years of our career is that in order to attract the best people, you have to reward them very well. Like, I had a gap in my entrepreneurship stage where I was contracting and consulting for other companies. And from my own experience, I know, like, if someone is not paying me well, I'm going, right? It's like, oh, Nikoko, you know what I'm saying? So obviously, like, you know, great mission, big challenge, a bold challenge, and also you pay people well. And that's kind of been working for us in most cases. Now, to your second question in terms of how do we create an enabling environment for these people to thrive, I would say, like, we're still learning, if I'm being honest. We're still learning. One thing that we know that great people love is just autonomy, right? And trust, and just getting out of people's way. And, you know, there are like a few other things that we're still, you know, kind of like trying to tweak and get right. But I think like the autonomy is great, but COVID has kind of helped us as well, because most people love to work remotely. So we just kind of like let people do their thing, and we don't get in their way. We trust them to do what they're going to get done, and then when they're ready, we'll ask them like how are things going. I think people love that, but we know that there's a lot more work to be done to compensate people properly, not just like pay-wise, but really caring for them, like caring about their well-being. So I think that's what a lot of companies neglect, like the well-being of people that are working for you is very important. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're still young as well, you know.
There's still a lot of things to learn.
Yeah.
Makes sense. We heard of Zazuu's name.
What? What's that?
I will tell you what it is. So let me there and Portable. Yeah, they released the song. And every time I've checked Zazuu on the internet, I see people say, oh, is this Zazuu's name? And I said I was going to ask you, like, maybe first of all clarify to me what the meaning of Zazuu means versus what Zazuu's name means, and just you're laughing a lot. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the song versus how you think it's affecting your brand.
Man. I mean, I can't tell you what Zazuu's name means.
But you can tell us what
I can
Zazuu
tell you
means.
what Zazuu means, right? So, I mean, like, Zazuu as a brand name was created from like 2016, right? So when I was running Afro Express, I realized that we, you know, for the next venture, actually for Afro Express, I was already kind of coming up with like a more like short, punchy name, like that people can, that is authentically African, right? And also like anyone can pronounce. So like Zazuu, the name actually came up then, and of course when Zazuu became a thing, we registered the company as Zazuu. Now the name for us means freedom. It means movement.
What language is it?
So the original language is where is it? Oh man, I'm short for what. But the original language is what's the language? I can't remember.
You can take your time to think. We'll cut this thinking part out. Swahili.
Yeah, Swahili.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the original name is like Swahili, which actually means movement. But we wanted like something that's like a lot more authentic, something that we own, and we just put like extra U to it. So Zazuu,
Oh, okay.
It means a lot to us because, when you look at our core demographic is migrants globally. And what do migrants have in common? They move around quite a lot. So we wanted to create a brand that actually move with people as a journey across borders. So that's where like the whole idea of freedom to choose comes from. So Zazuu to us it's a brand of freedom, and it's a brand that's like really focusing on how do we enable access for financial access for migrants globally in a way that currently doesn't exist today. So that's what the brand is. Now, like this whole portable thing, man, has it affected our brand in any way? I think, in a positive way, actually.
Okay.
Like, prior to the Zazuu SNES stuff, like, people didn't know how to pronounce Zazuu. Like, Zazui, Zaziz, like, people were just pronouncing it the wrong way. But I think now, like, people know how to pronounce it, which is good, right? The not so good part is, like, people are confused. Well, maybe not confused, but every time
wondering what the brand affiliation might be.
Yeah, like people think like we have something to do with it, but we absolutely have nothing to do with it.
Okay, fair enough. I think an important thing for me was just, I was curious, like, versus, a musician is thinking about this name and there's a brand, startup that has this name. I wonder what the meaning is and how it might correlate. But I think it's just also really good for people to hear what Zazuu means because then it's easier to create, like, this is a separate brand 100%. And this is why it is this. And that's kind of what I asked. So thanks. You were laughing a lot like it was uncomfortable to answer. But
it was. I kind of knew you'd ask for it,
So my friend is asking behind the camera and he's like, I think at the very beginning, when you're talking about why Zazuu, you mentioned that it's very hard to send money anywhere across the world. In some places, 7%. In Africa, it's like 22%.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard? Why is it that expensive, rather?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's like so many things that makes it really hard, and I can kind of break it down for you. How long do we have?
A few more minutes.
So, I mean, one of the obvious thing is that one, we have like a very old banking infrastructure that's been built from like 2 decades ago. That kind of just doesn't work anymore in this new financial system, this new economy that we live in. And, that's like, paying money into a bank account or using SWIFT to move money, right? I mean, there's like a newer version of SWIFT coming out, but most SWIFT, if you're sending £100 via SWIFT today to like South Africa or whatever, depending on the bank you're using, there's a fixed fee of at least £15 to £20. Right, just for that transaction alone. So like we have like very old banking rails, right, that we're still using today, and we're still moving like massive volumes of money. The other reason is that lack of trust. Right, lack of trust because for money to get from A to B, there's like a need for liquidity. If you send £100 now to Nigeria, in Nigeria equivalent, someone needs to be able to give that that naira, the note, right? And so that's what you call liquidity. And then liquidity requires either you as a business have that money in your Nigerian bank account, or you partner with someone who can help you to give that money out. Now, if in most cases you don't have that money, so you partner with like liquidity partners, and of course they put their fees as well. Now it doesn't end there. Now, if you send that money through say Western Union, for example. Now, Western Union need to capture the £100 from you somehow, and they'll probably do that using debit card or credit card. Or, those are the main ways. Or if you go to the shop, you can pay using cash. Now, depending on the mediums that you use to pay Western Union, it can go from 0.5% to like 5% for Western Union to actually be able to get that money from you. Right, so there's obviously that cost, right? So the cost from the payment acquisition, cost from liquidity, the cost for actually using the payment network to deposit the money on the payout side, the cost of actually acquiring you as a customer. Like how did Western Union even get you in the first place? The cost of their technology, the app that they built, the cost for customer support, What else is there? The cost for compliance, which is very, very expensive. So every time you move money, Western Union has a regulatory obligation to make sure that they know who you are. That's like KYC or identity verification. They do some check on like anti-money laundering to make sure you're not on sanction list. They do like transaction monitoring to make sure that no one is actually hacked into your account trying to move money, trying to basically defraud you, right? So there's all these regulatory compliance security check that actually adds up as well. Now, you put all these fees together, ultimately you're paying for it as a customer. So that's partly why the cost of moving money globally is very expensive. There are there are ways that you can make it much better, which Zazuu is advocating for, and that's we're calling that like digital access or collaboration. There's ways that you can streamline many of these like recurring fees or recurring checks to streamline it so that the entire ecosystem, right, the payment system can actually move money in a very securely, very seamless way without incurring all of those costs. On Zazuu, we can make all of those things. We can drive the cost of moving money down to less than 1%. Right.
From 21% all the way to 1%.
Yeah.
That's a huge margin.
Yeah, and we can do that because we're a marketplace. The same way like Amazon could reduce the cost of logistics. Like if you try and send like a parcel on your own, it would cost you how much? It would cost you a lot. But if you do it through Amazon, they can drive that cost down significantly for you. And that's, it's a volume-based business, and they've made all the necessary investment to be able to do that for you. So
that's the journey that you're doing with Zazuu.
Yeah.
So my final question is, Zazuu is still very early. I mean, you just reached pre-seed. You're about to launch your main product.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot for people to look forward to.
Yeah.
So if, say we're going to have another shoot in another 18 months, what would you want to look back and say, hey, remember when you had that video? This is where Zazuu is right now, and this is how people are using the product. Yeah.
Good, that's a good question. So where we are today is we're pre-product launch of the core products, which will enable Africans in diaspora to be able to move money back home very quickly, very seamlessly. Where we will be 18 months from now is we would have created an ecosystem that not just allow people to move money back home, but actually an ecosystem that's created an economy for smaller businesses in our community to actually make a living off of what Zazuu is doing. And I'll give you an example. Airbnb has created a technology that empowers people globally to be able to use their home and lend to like strangers and make money from that. And there are people who are living off of Airbnb income today. And if you think about Uber, right? Uber has created a technology that enable people to be able to make extra income, actually have a full-time job through their platform. And that's the world. 18 months from now, that's definitely what Zazuu would be. We would have a technology that empower people within our community to be able to make a living off Zazuu.
It's a very ambitious one, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question. You're young, obviously, and in this age, right, there are a lot of people who want to get into tech. Some people want to start their own companies because everybody's raising money and sounds nice. They have an inkling that maybe it's hard, but I mean, we might as well try. But there's some other people who also just want to build a career in tech. And my friends were having a conversation yesterday and said, like, one of the ways that we know now from our own experience to get yourself out of poverty, especially when you grew up in a place like Nigeria, is getting into tech. So there are a lot more people who want to have access to the opportunity. So if you're speaking to a 16-year-old who is just about to enter uni and you're like, oh, I want to pursue programming, I want to get into it, I want to do this, you know what would your advice be to them?
Like, do it. That's it, just do it. So I also came from poverty, and that's a part of me that most people don't know. Like,
because the accent now is
I'm still a Naija boy, but I grew up in poverty, and I grew up in an environment that that I think at least 22 million Nigerians are going through today, right? Which is basically, you don't have like, rich people, right? To like rich family to sponsor your education or to send you to like one of the best universities in the world or whatnot, right? And technology has just enabled anyone globally to be able to first self-sustain themselves, but also like serve their communities. So for me, like coding or programming is changed my life completely. And I go into a very early stage. I'd say like I go into around 16 as well. So if there's a 16-year-old out there who's like thinking about programming, definitely do it, because that's just going to open your world to things that he can't even or she can't even imagine right now. First of all, like you'd have access to like global workforce, right? And but also like different career paths as well within tech. And of course, like we need a lot more tech. We need a lot more tech people on the continent to do like incredible innovation for us. So like I'm like pro people getting into tech at a very early stage. It's great for them, like, financially, but also it's great for our continent. It's great for the community. It's great for innovation. It's definitely, man, we should go.
What about to someone who is just about, you have 5 businesses under your belt, someone who's just about to start their first business?
Just do it and fail. Yeah, just do it and fail, because that's the best way to learn, right? Like just do it and fail. Like you can't take a shortcut of not failing. You have to fail. You can read all the books in the world you want about failing and all that stuff, but you have to taste failure. And it's those failures that like on the next adventure that gives you that confidence not to repeat the same mistake, but also like sometimes when you have doubt, that failure strengthens you and encourages you in a way that books and motivational speakers can't do.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And now my very last question is to you, right? Is there a question about you or Zazuu that you would have wanted me to ask that I didn't?
No, I just wanted to come and flex, man. I wanted to have a chat with you. I didn't want it to be like Zazuu, conversation. I just wanted to like just chat and see where the conversation leads us to. There isn't anything about Zazuu or about me. I think like if there's anything about me or that I would love to use your platform for to get the message out is, I'm very my core message is all about people serving. Like for me to serve, but also for people in our community to serve. And I strongly believe in technology and entrepreneurship. And I think the best way for more importantly Africans to get out of the poverty state and to be self-sustained is to serve, to have like this deep yearning to serve. And like we can serve in different ways, right? Like it could be like really simple things. For example, I was in Nigeria in 2015, I think. And I was in this village, like Songo. It's not a village, but Songo, right? And obviously it's Lagos, but it still kind of feels disconnected from like, from the city somehow. Like there's no electricity and all of that stuff. And there's this guy who's come out of uni. He's been out of job for like 3 years. He's done his NYSC, all of that, right? And he has a CV. He's been looking for a job. Honestly, I wouldn't even hire him with a CV.
Wow.
But that's the truth. That's the truth. But then one day he took me to like the bank. We went to GTB Bank, and I saw like loads of people queuing up. And then after that, we went to these like remote, like local restaurants. And then many people from the banks were going to that local restaurant. This was like in 2015, right? And I'm like, hold on, so people are leaving their banks, like the bank workers leaving the bank to go to that place. Why can you help them to like get the food faster to them, right? And he's like, oh, that's a cool idea. Like, why don't you just do it? Because there are businesses in the UK, in the West, that are built based on that model of service to the people. Like, serve the bank workers so they don't have to travel all the way to that remote place. People want that lady's food, but it's a trip to get there, right? And then if you kind of have that mindset of service, like there are so many businesses, so many innovations on our continent that we can solve that is just going to unlock like this wealth in a way that's not possible. So I think if there's anything that I want to, you know, kind of chime out, is just serve. Let's serve. And in that, it's like incredible wealth from that.
I really like that. Just serve. So I think like you've answered most of the questions that I have. The two things that I'm leaving this conversation with. Okay. One is to serve, obviously.
Yeah.
But also how important it is to try, right? People would hear about Zazuu now and see how amazing the product is and hear about your fundraising announcements. What they wouldn't see very easily or hear very easily is the 5 other businesses that you've tried and that you failed, and years of just experimenting. And that's usually that probably will be like the difference in your own journey, just that wealth of experience of, I tried something and I failed, and I tried again and I tried again and I tried again, and here we are. And so for everybody watching, right, it's just so important to always try, right, and follow your ideas, experiment. This is really interesting because the person I was having a conversation with yesterday was also saying the same thing about just how they've tried this business, if you try this business, it fails, and next thing you know, they're speaking best, you know. So that's all the story. So it's really amazing. So 2 things, guys. If you forget anything in this conversation, don't forget to serve. There are lots of problems to solve all across the world, not just in Nigeria, everywhere. So any opportunity to fail is an opportunity to be innovative. It's an opportunity to be a solution. So opportunity to start a business, you know, and maybe even raise money too, and just keep trying. It might fail, but if you don't stop, maybe you then hit that $1 million, $1 billion idea. So anyway, thanks so much, Kay.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun. We really chilled.
Same here. And thank you guys for watching this video to the end. Please don't leave this channel without subscribing. Also, I'll put the link to Zazuu in the description below. So if you want to try it out, you want to spend like less than 1%, instead of 1% when sending money globally and especially to Africa, they should definitely click on that link. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.